Hello, everybody, and welcome to what is sure to be a very enlightening and educational experience as we discover the 3 ways men wanting to focus on her pleasure during sex can still be sexist.
That is problematic.
Okay, here we go. Let's delve into this shitstorm. We're starting to talk more about giving equal weight to women's pleasure in man/woman sexual encounters, and that's awesome. But wait, they're going to come up with a problem. As a woman, you'd think I'd be all for focusing more on women's pleasure in sex, and I am, mostly. Sometimes, though, I'll hear a hetero guy talking about how important women's pleasure is, and it leaves me cringing. Worse yet, sometimes I've had sex with men who said they were all about my pleasure, and in a sense, they were, yet I still ended up feeling like their feelings and needs were more important than my actual experiences. In this article, I'll be discussing 3 ways I love giving a woman pleasure can still be all about the male partner. I'll also talk about what to do if you experience this or think you might be doing it. So that's pretty funny. It's like even when it's not about you, or even when it's not about the man, it's about the man. 2 quick notes before we get into it, though. First, in my experience, this is very much a gendered phenomenon in a heterocentric culture. It has its roots in toxic masculinity, and look, it cited the source, and the source is alternet.org or something, and expectations about how men and women relate to each other. I just haven't experienced the same thing in queer relationships or heard it talked about. For that reason, I'm going to be using binary and heterocentric language through most of this piece. However, man or woman and man are absolutely meant to include trans women and trans men who experience these things. If you have thoughts about similar dynamics in queer relationships, we'd love to hear about them. So sign up and write an article today. Second, a note for hetero men reading this. You're likely to feel some anxiety and defensiveness as you go through this if you haven't already, and that's okay. I'm going to have more to say to you at the end. Just stick with me. So are you ready to feel anxiety and defensiveness?
No, I'm ready to continue rolling my eyes at the citation here.
Nothing that I'm about to say is a mark of a terrible person. It's just a mark of the ways toxic masculinity impacts all areas of our lives, including sexuality. So here are 3 ways that I love giving a woman pleasure can actually be not so great for the woman. 1, the focus is still on his achievement, so achievement unlocked. Toxic masculinity says that a man is only as good as what he can accomplish. When it comes to sex, this can often mean to be a man, I have to achieve orgasm/ejaculation, or I have to win as many sex partners as I can. These days, it can also mean I have to give my partner the most intense pleasure possible, because if she has a body-shaking orgasm, it's a mark of his skill and prowess. And if she doesn't have an orgasm at all, it feels like a personal failure to him. Now, why is that? She's making it sound like that is men's fault, but I can't even count the times where I've heard women, make the joke that the man wasn't pleasing to them in bed, but somehow that's a product of toxic masculinity.
As it should be, I guess.
For the female partner, this can turn into yet another way she has to perform emotional labor. When her experience of pleasure becomes tied to his ego, then she often feels pressure to have a big, showy orgasm for him, even if that's not how her body works. One is a free thought blog, and the other is Everyday Feminism, once again cited as sources. And this is kind of silly. I mean, if you're in a relationship with someone and you are connecting on an intimate or sexual level, you should probably be mature enough to discuss what it is that will help you reach that level of pleasure in the bedroom. In my opinion, there's no reason to really lie about it. That's disingenuous.
But apparently that's just representative of toxic masculinity.
Instead of genuinely connecting with her body and experiencing that pleasure that's there for her in the moment, she can become anxious about whether she's satisfying him with her show of pleasure. This whole dynamic makes it hard to connect in true intimacy in the moment. Instead, sex becomes a performance for both parties. That's like the only part so far that I can agree with. She's making it sound like it's a game where, one person is trying to be the winner instead of two people enjoying each other.
Two people trying to win on each other or working together to win.
Or in this case, a man trying to win all over a woman. Sometimes it becomes literally a performance when the woman fakes more pleasure than she feels, up to and including orgasm, so that her partner won't get upset. In addition to the pressure. Go ahead if you have something.
Pretending is definitely a good way to make sure somebody doesn't get upset.
Right, because, there's no way that could backfire when it comes to light. When he finds out that you've been talking to your friend, that you haven't been getting satisfaction, there's just no way that's going to backfire on you at all. In addition to the pressure that it puts on both parties, the her pleasure is his accomplishment attitude has an ugly power side to it, wherein the woman's body becomes something for the man to manipulate. A statement like, I love making a woman scream, come, writhe, whatever, carries an implication that sexual pleasure is something that he does to her, rather than a gift from her own body, which he helps draw out.
So he used that Final Fantasy Tactics technique?
This is terrible. I almost don't know what to say. It's taking all responsibility off of the woman in the situation. It's making her out to be like the victim of the situation, even when she feels the need to lie about it. You could just be open about this.
But if there's anything I've learned today from writing papers about open communication, it's that you shouldn't have open communication.
I mean, the only thing that I can sort of, and it's not even necessarily agree with the writer here, but when there are those guys that go around, swinging their dicks around like they're God's gift to sex, and that's obnoxious. I think it's stupid. That's not really something you should walk around bragging about. I kind of feel like if you need to brag about it, you probably don't know what you're doing as much as you think you do. But that's kind of a different story. That's not really a product of toxic masculinity, whatever that even is. I still don't know.
Well, I guess it applies that there is such a thing as non-toxic masculinities.
Oh, and if there's since we're all
Crayola masculinity, if you will.
So if we're all equals, and according to these people we are, wouldn't there be toxic femininity?
There should be, but of course that would just be a destroyed narrative that we can't have.
2, he's still primarily focused on his own enjoyment. So it's like you can't win. I mean, even when somebody is outright saying to, apparently when you're telling your significant other, I enjoy pleasing you, that's still about the giver, I guess. This is another way in which a female partner's pleasure can become more about what it does for the man. So should a man even be present for this? I mean, it just sounds like he's being reduced to a tool for her pleasure and nothing more.
But of course, there's nothing wrong with describing men that way or attributing men to being nothing more than tools. But apparently all men just assume that women are tools, which there's at least one that I think is a tool.
Rather than being about feeding his sense of accomplishment, though, it's about giving him visual enjoyment. Because, who likes to look at things that are visually stimulating? I mean, that's not a thing at all. The woman may feel pressure to perform pleasure visibly, making more noises, moving more intensely, because he likes looking at it. Who even... All right. I mean, I understand, like, if you've had a discussion, an open discussion about your likes and dislikes, in which case you would think that the problem would be solved here. You wouldn't even really know what it is exactly that is visibly stimulating your partner. So she's kind of just like imposing these ideas on this fictional man in the situation.
Yes, I'm sure that she knows quite a few things about fictional men.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with finding it hot when your partner is clearly gripped by ecstasy. Of course not. But sometimes the erotic enjoyment of the other person becomes more of a focus than the pleasure you're actually experiencing.
And by other person, of course, she means woman.
This is especially a danger for women who are socialized to prioritize looking good to male eyes over their own experiences and comfort. So wait, are you trying to say that this isn't something that happens to both genders? I mean, clearly we live in a world where there are stereotypical ideas of what is attractive on a man and what is attractive on a woman. And most people do fall into the categories of enjoying those things about the opposite sex. You know, obviously there are exceptions, but there is a such thing as conventionally attractive.
Hence, it's called convention.
Male partners may be completely unaware of how, if they talk a lot about how much they enjoy seeing a woman orgasm, how hot a particular noise or movement she makes in pleasure is, and so on, they may be setting up a sense of do this for my pleasure in their female partner, which,
Somebody didn't do that great of an editing job on this sentence here. She uses how twice. Male partners may be completely unaware of how hot a particular noise is.
I didn't even realize that. My eyes are apparently focused on autocorrect. Terrible editing jobs aside, which seems to be commonplace on this website, this is just stupid. I mean, sex is about pleasure between two individuals, and yes, everybody knows that both people should be getting pleasure out of the situation, but this sounds rather one-sided. It almost makes it sound like anytime a guy shares something that he likes in the bedroom, that it is basically oppressing the female partner.
And I can't remember where or who made the quote, but there is some quote attributed to somebody who essentially said that when when a woman achieves orgasm with a man, she's conspiring to oppress herself with masculinity or patriarchal customs or something like
Oh,
that.
wasn't that a post from Tumblr or something?
Yes.
And the other thing that bothers me about this, which I'm apparently losing my train of thought, but that would be the perfect time because there's so many things that bother me about this.
Well, the train that is this article has already gone off the rails, so
The train wreck, yes. If I think about it, this is what it is. I mean, what kind of guys does this person know that basically always go around like talking about how much they love pleasing women? I mean, what kind of douche nozzles are you hanging out with?
see, it's going back to the whole concept of the old adage or the old stereotype that man is not pleasing a woman and she's hardly ever getting off. That that's the prevailing ideology right now. And whenever somebody does say something about it, even if if they're doing it to be a douche or if they're doing it to say, hey, there are people out there that do satisfy or do make sure that their partner experiences pleasure. Now she's going and making sure that that can be a problem as well. So that once again, it goes back to that quote of anytime there's any kind of orgasm or there's sexual dissatisfaction, it's always oppression.
It's just it's pretty insane. And that takes us to number 3. He's looking for a gold star because, we're still in grade school and it's not about intimacy, but it's an assignment, and there's a grade scale on how well you do. When I told a friend I was writing this article, she mentioned how some men will brag about how much they love performing cunnilingus, and I laughed because I knew just what she was talking about. Now, maybe it's a little bit more rare, but I have also seen women talking about how much they love giving head, as it
Yeah,
is often referred to.
yeah. There's a certain woman. I can't remember her name. It's the same name of a particular brand of automobile, but a luxury automobile, and somehow I don't hear any complaints about when she talks about how much she loves performing fellatio. But that's nothing.
Not at all. We can sweep that under the rug. There's a special attitude that I've heard often where a man talks about enjoying a sex act where the woman's pleasure is the focus. Someone can say, I like being spanked, and just be telling you some information about themselves. Because, that's everyday information that we all need to know. That doesn't really lend itself to be reserved to private conversations with somebody that you know on a deeper level at all. That we could just, hop on the public transportation and tell the first person we know, I like being spanked.
Well, we have to be sex positive now.
But when a man says, I like going down on a woman, there's a very often a subtext of, doesn't that make me awesome? No. I don't really see that, to be honest.
Although for the record, I am pretty awesome.
Even
and,
while
and that subtext is throughout my existence.
there you go. No subtlety needed. Even while talking positively about women's pleasure, this reinforces the idea that giving a woman pleasure is above and beyond the norm. That's because you people frame it that way.
You've set the standard. Nobody else set the standard of, oh well, we don't need to please men. That is entirely her own concoction.
I want my partners to desire and appreciate my pleasure. I want my enjoyment to be rewarding for them, just as their enjoyment is rewarding for me. I want, but never I give.
Yeah, they're giving an orgasm to somebody.
But
But
when
wait, they're just supposed to be an instrumental tool of her body gifting her of an orgasm.
right, so
which
basically a walking dildo.
which could apply to any orgasm, male or female, but who has time to worry about pesky things like that?
But when my pleasure gets treated as something they deserve extra credit for, all the positive feelings are erased. I start to feel like I'm supposed to be grateful for the fact that they actually care if I'm having a good time. So let me be clear about this. I deserve pleasure from my sexual encounters. So does every woman. And every non-binary person, just to be inclusive, and of course every man. But in our culture, that's usually taken for granted. Having a
No,
partner...
no, it isn't, because people hardly even acknowledge the fact that a man cannot receive pleasure from sexual encounters. It's all the stereotype, as we keep saying, is simply that the woman can never be satisfied, but nobody ever sits and actually observes the instances where a man doesn't receive pleasure. Nobody deserves pleasure from anything.
And the thing about that is, I hate to use the stigma term here, but since it's so often implied that, the guy just always gets off, or that their usefulness in the bedroom is based on whether or not they can maintain an erection, it's a difficult thing for a guy to come forward and talk about. And if they do happen to say, oh, well, I understand that this is a pleasurable experience for you, but for me, I don't feel it from this specific act, they're the ones that are framed as ungrateful. So let's see. Having a partner who cares whether I'm having a good time is not a treat, and it's not something to be grateful for. It's baseline. Important note. Go ahead.
I actually agree with that assessment. There's only one problem with that, and that's the fact that the majority of people don't choose partners wisely. Therefore, we've lowered our own standard to where if a partner simply just doesn't do anything to destroy us, they're good by nature. And But let me refine that. And when I say we've lowered our standards, I mean in the sense that if as long as somebody isn't punching you in the face, then we're okay. They could be lazy, they could be unresponsive, but that's fine. But nothing else is okay. Now she also just says that uh, who somebody, what does she say? Having a partner who
Having a partner who cares whether I'm having a good time is not a treat, and it's not something to be grateful for. It's baseline.
a good partner should is not always going to make sure that you have a good time. Sometimes people need to have some tough situations and some bad times to grow up, like this person clearly hasn't done.
That is true. This does not mean that a partner of mine of any gender, here we go, because there's 36 genders and not two, has to do things that they don't like or feel uncomfortable with to please me. Their comfort and satisfaction is just as important as mine, and full consent comes before pleasure on all sides. So, rape culture disclaimer, basically. The point in all of these cases is that when we emphasize women's pleasure, we need to really be emphasizing women's pleasure, not ways that women's pleasure makes men feel great or look great. Why are we focusing on one gender or the other, though? That's the real question. Why not say, okay, if two people care about each other, they want to be with each other on a sexual, intimate level, that they should be open with each other about their likes and dislikes and enjoy each other. I mean, why does it have to be one way or the other? I get it that they're saying, oh, well, it's implied that men will always enjoy it, but for some reason women don't. Advice for women thinking, yes, I know that feeling. First of all, your experiences are valid. Oh,
They're not.
thank you for validating.
They're not valid. She hasn't provided any evidence that doesn't just linked to something else within a blog that is very clearly biased. I mean, we've looked through this website before, and we've seen what it takes to become a contributor for this magazine, and it very clearly and unapologetically states that you have to be you essentially have to agree with their politics and social policies. So linking to yourself is not citing a source.
That's Kotaku caliber journalism. We're so used to a world that tells us our pleasure is unimportant or wrong that it can feel really ungrateful to think, I appreciate that you're so invested in my orgasm, but that actually isn't what I want, and your insistence is making me feel crappy. You don't have to be grateful for someone's good intentions if they're ignoring what you actually want and need.
I could have sworn you wanted and quote unquote needed to have an orgasm. When did that change?
Right. It's almost like, let's just disagree with whatever the partner is saying in this situation rather than realizing, hey, maybe they actually listened and actually want me to enjoy myself. How to talk about it with your partner depends a lot on the closeness of the relationship and how you usually deal with tough conversation with them. But if they're someone you plan on having sex with again, it's probably worth bringing up. So this, I believe, could be is a problem that could be solved by something that a lot of people don't want to hear, that a lot of people that will label you as sex negative for. But depending on the closeness of the relationship, well, see, if you are doing something with another human being that is basically one of the most intimate activities that you can do with them, I think that you should be close enough with them to discuss anything. So a way that problems like this could be subverted is by destroying this whole quote unquote hookup culture and, taking time to choose partners wisely. If there's a specific behavior, you could address that with something like, I don't actually need or want to orgasm every time we have sex, or when you talk about how hot I look, it actually takes me out of myself and makes me self-conscious instead of being able to enjoy the moment. So compliments are evil, and I don't actually need or want to orgasm every time we have sex, even though this entire article is supposed to be about women's pleasure.
Right. And I'm almost certain that you're not interested in having sex simply to procreate. So well, I don't know. You're talking in circles here.
A great sexual relationship is born out of communication and giving and taking of feedback. Wow, that's like the most intelligent statement in this entire piece.
Yeah, it only took three-quarters of the article to get there.
If it's not one specific thing, but more a general feeling, you might try having a broader conversation about the ways masculinity and femininity impact sexual experience. Talk about how women feel pressure to be and look sexy while men feel pressure to perform and accomplish. And both of these things are imposed upon one another by the opposite sex and sometimes by the same sex. And exploring to what extent those dynamics are true for each of you could be an eye-opening conversation for both of you. And of course, you don't owe anybody sexual availability. You can put as much or as little effort into fixing this as feels worthwhile to you, and it's fine to walk away from a sexual relationship that isn't working for you. Now, it's interesting that she would say that because I'm curious as to how she would feel about a man that openly admits to leaving a relationship with a woman because he's not feeling sexually satisfied.
Well, that would be toxic masculinity, of course, because now all it is about making sure that he is sexually pleased, and he didn't go and ask the woman if she cared about that.
Advice for men thinking, oh shit, this might be me, which is probably going to be zero guys that read this. And I have a feeling we might be two of the only men on the planet that are reading this.
And so that relative or that rate so far is true. 0% of the men that I know that have read this so far feel this way.
Remember, none of this is about whether you're a good person or not.
Because you're not.
Our culture's messages affect us all, and learning how to grow past them is a huge part of becoming our best selves. So it's only the people reading thinking, oh shit, this could be me, that are indoctrinated by culture.
Right. So when you send this to Jonathan McIntosh, he'll probably be the only person that feels this way, but he'll definitely resonate with this and say, "Oh, well, yeah, I need to grow up and overcome culture's messages."
When you feel anxious that you're not accomplishing your partner's pleasure well enough, remember that that's toxic masculinity talking. No, it has to be the toxic masculinity. It couldn't be that your female partner is not being open and honest with you about her desires or putting pressure on you to pleasure her.
Man, it's almost like I have linked to an article in the chat here that would totally contradict what she just wrote right there.
Uh-oh.
Man, if only there was an article about 11 famous women who stood up for the right for a woman to have an orgasm, and they said something to the effect of, "This is my clit, and you need to get to know it. You need to make me pleased, and you demand that of everybody that you sleep with." But you know. I guess that article never really happened.
We can take a look at that as soon as we get struggle through these last few paragraphs here. Your partner's pleasure is for them first. Your most important job when it comes to helping your partner enjoy sex is to be attentive to what they want. So what about the opposite? Sometimes an explosive orgasm is not what your partner wants. Sometimes they know that mild shudders of pleasure are the most their body has to offer that day. Whatever it is, working on learning how to quiet that ego and really listen to what your partner is expressing.
I have not met any woman who tells me, "Oh, I just want a couple of shakes today. I don't really want the explosive orgasm here. I've got to go to work in the morning, and I want to have sex and orgasm, but I don't want a two orgasm.
I
You know,
know that would be problematic. Take the pressure off yourself to be the perfect lover. How about you people take the pressure off of them? I mean, it's so It's so stupid. It's just ignoring so many other factors.
Right. All of this still boils down to it's up to the man to do everything. And the woman is just there so that he can inquire as to what she wants. But there's no reciprocity here at all.
Sure, it's nice to think of ourselves as providing an unforgettable sexual experience for our partners, being the best they've ever had. But despite what culture has probably been telling you, your worth is not determined by whether you're the best lay or the best anything. Although that is interesting because this article does seem to be putting a lot of worth on sexual performance. The best sexual encounters, in my experience, happen when everybody involved comes as they are. Comes as they are. I see what you did there, and gives open attention to what the other person is bringing.
Open attention, I get it.
It's easier in some ways to play the roles and enact the tropes. Oh, that's right, tropes in sexual encounters. But when you do the work to be authentic, vulnerable, and attentive, it's so worth it. So this whole entire article could be just, first of all, it needs to drop the gendered bullshit, and then it could just be simplified to, when you share intimacy with someone, it's important to be a mature enough adult to be open and honest about your likes, your dislikes, and, go from there.
Now, are you going to do the? Are you? I'm afraid of turning this into an ad hominem, and by afraid, I mean I don't care. But are you going to read the bio here, since it does make it an issue to describe or define the author of this magnificent piece here?
Oh boy! All right, let's see. Ginny Brown is a contributing writer for Everyday Feminism, as well as a speaker and educator specializing in sexuality and relationships. Oh, I bet she has a laundry list of partners to provide experience for. She writes for various publications and has her own blog here. Oh, it's linked. The Brunette's blog. Okay. She lives in the Philadelphia area with her poly family and 3 cats. Follow her on Twitter. No, I don't think that's a wise idea at all.
Well, if you were to look at her Twitter, it says that she's a sexuality educator. So in the same sense that Lacey Green is a sexuality educator.
Oh no.
In the same sense that I'm a telecommunications expert because I'm on a stream. She's also a writer and philosopher on polyamory, skepticism, and humanism. So this is a logic and reason person that doesn't even know how to demonstrate logic or reason.
Oh, and she, worst of all, well, maybe not worst of all, but she's one of those people that has to have the cartoonized version of themselves as an avatar. I really wish that trend would stop.
And the link on her Twitter page is a broken link. So
the blog?
Yeah.
Yep, blog failed. Oh, there we go.
So 10 out of 10 there.
All her feminist writing or poly writing has burned up in the ether. Okay, well, that was a fun ride. I think we've all learned something today. Don't read Everyday Feminism.
Yeah, some startups, that is all startups, are bad.
Yeah, I guess we could just scroll through this real quickly just to show what these people said. Let's see. So first, 11 celebrities who remind us all that orgasms are awesome and women should feel way more empowered to get theirs. Yay. Oh, damn ads. Okay, so first we have Amy Schumer. Make sure he knows that you're entitled to an orgasm. I like to say it. I'll be like, have you met my clit? Oh, that's insanely attractive.
Yeah, that totally makes me want to... Well, what it makes me want to do is wish that she were one of the aliens in Earth Defense Force.
And then, pioneers like Nicki Minaj. I demand that I climax. I think women should demand that. Okay, well, you do that. And there's a very, very flattering photo to go with the quote here. Remember to allow yourself real pleasure and not worry about how long it takes. God punished us with the gift of being able to fake it. Show God the real boss, who the real boss is, by getting off and getting yours.
Checkmate, creationists.
There you go. Margaret Cho. Okay, I never fake it. I'm sure sometimes people would wish that I did, but I don't care. Remember always that sex is for you first. Yeah, it's just for you. You know, there's not two people involved or anything.
Yeah,
Just one.
good thing nobody ever said that sex is about the other person.
Women should feel pleasure and have sex and feel good about it. Okay, I don't remember anybody saying they shouldn't. That was very profound, though. Oh no, not this lady. Isn't she like 90? I believe that a man should know how to make a woman experience orgasm until she is truly satisfied. But what if they're just not up for it that day?
Or what if they only want? She didn't say mild or explosive orgasm either. So I don't know. What's truly satisfied here?
Not a very inclusive statement. Points off for you. Okay. You know that stuff they say about a woman being responsible for her own orgasms? That's all true. I'll tell you this. I've learned my tricks. I know what I like. I do not wait around. I initiate. Wait, who said that?
Apparently, Halle Berry said that.
I don't remember anybody saying, "Oh, it's the woman's job if she wants to get off." Especially
Well,
considering we were in the prior article, we were just acknowledging these men that just love to please a woman. But okay.
well, that was before toxic masculinity was involved.
The female body is far better equipped for sex than the male body. Women can have multiple orgasms, men cannot. They're actually the sexual athletes, not the men. Well, hey, why not just cut men out of the equation entirely?
Yeah, why not give misinformation and say that men cannot experience multiple orgasms?
You can be a businesswoman, a mother, an artist, and a feminist, whatever you want to be, and still be a sexual being. It's not mutually exclusive.
Oh, thank you for pointing out the apparent.
Man, true pioneers of our time. Be uninhibited in bed. Don't allow those insecurities to close you off. Be creative. Just be an artist, you know.
Unemployed?
I didn't. Oh boy, here's real genius. I didn't begin enjoying sex until I started masturbating. Now I give rabbit vibrators to all my girlfriends. They scream when they unwrap it. The best gift I can give them is an orgasm. So, wow, that's a pretty impressive gift. I mean, they scream when they unwrap it, not when they use it.
And that almost implies that if they do have sex, that they don't get orgasms from sex.
Which makes me believe that they don't know how to communicate, or they don't know how to choose a partner that is really invested in them, which I believe comes down to personal responsibility, but we could just blame toxic masculinity because that's far easier.
And hey, why not spend $100 on a device instead of, a person for free? But
okay, well, I guess that brings our little stream here to a close. Thank you for watching, everybody, and we will be back with more stupidity next time.
take care.